Good morning. I'm very pleased to give an example of human-wildlife conflict in Austria and the European Union, which is partly solved, partly it's not solved because of problems with the institutional and legal framework. It's both about fish farms and rivers. The conflict, which means that on the one hand, in the fish farms, the fish belongs to the owner, whereas in the rivers it is generally public good, and just the angling rights are belonging to somebody. The otter was almost extinct. It's a semi-aquatic mustelid, feeding mainly on fish. In Austria, you see the situation in 1986, and a few decades later, the situation is like that. So the otter is almost everywhere in the east of Tyrol. When the otter is going into a pond, fish are gone, usually, and we don't know why necessarily. In few cases, they leave food remains. So that is an indication, but food remains are not always very clear if it is the otter or if it was caused by some other animal. In the rivers, it's even more tricky because you have the current and so on, and there are no food remains. What you may find if you do electrofishing is bites on the fin, which are caused by the otter. But usually you find just the excrements, which tell you the otter was there, but something about the amount of damage, it's absolutely open. Now let's have a look at the fish ponds, how the damage comes to be. We have on the one hand the real losses in the middle and the perceived damage of the fish farmers. And this is mainly caused by the consumption, but also by surplus killing and by stress caused by the otter. But the other side of the coin is the economic situation of the fish farmer. How much profit does it make? If there is almost no profit, then any kind of damage by the fish eater is detrimental. The attitude of the fish farmer, and also the relative importance to other fish eaters. If you have cormorants there, you may easily forget the otter because cormorants take many more and they come hundreds or 200 in a day and so on. Other factors, biological and non-biological factors, are modifying all these blue boxes, which is the otter density or the pond size, the climate, the water chemistry, and so on. In the rivers, it's somehow more simple. We have no stress, we have no surplus killing, we have just the consumption, we have the attitude of anglers, and the relative importance to cormorant and merganser, for instance. And then we have, of course, the emotional aspect. When you see the picture on the left side, it's a koi carp, it's a pet. It was 4.5 kilo heavy. The pond owner, the ornamental pond owner, knew this fish, it was really his friend, predated by an otter. And on the other side, you see pujo, it's the salmon of the catchment, equivalent salmon on the catchment of the Danube salmon. It's also, you see the damage on the fin. If an angler catches such a fish, oh, you can imagine these emotions. So on the one side you see a commercial fish pond, it's not a river, and on the other side you see an ornamental pond. And in both cases conflicts come to be. Now what is the legal background for management options? In the European Union it's the Fauna Flora Habitat Directive, and the otter is in the Annex 2 and 4. So the otter is strictly protected, and killing is possible under very certain conditions according to Article 16. What are the preconditions? There cannot be any alternatives to alleviate the problem than killing. So all other possibilities have to be exhausted. The otter has to stay in a favorable conservation status despite of the removal of the otters, the killing of the otters. And then you can do this killing if the reason is if you want to protect other seriously threatened rare species, or if there is a serious damage, economic damage, but these actions must be effective. You are not allowed to do placebo actions just to calm down the people. And the permits have to be given for a very concrete, special case. So somebody has to apply to say, okay, I have damage like this and that, or this is the problem, and I want to remove 5 or 10 otters in order to solve this. But you cannot give it for a province a permit just to alleviate somehow a bit the problem. In the ponds, the management options are financial support for mitigation of, which is mainly fences. You see on the one side an electric fence and on the other side a permanent fence. Of course, both types of fences need some maintenance. If the permanent fence is not properly done, then the otter will go under it and so on. Then we have compensation of losses, simply payments, or financial reward for accepting the otters. Because in some ponds, like this one, you are not able to fence it. So in that case, the province gives a lump sum of €1,000 or $1,000 as a maximum for accepting the otter and other fish eaters. It's not just for the otter, but basically it was invented because of the otter. Then we have restrictions in one province at least for new ponds, which means that if you build a new pond, it's obligatory fence it otter-proof. Otherwise, you don't get a permission to build the pond. And then we have the advisor for fish farmers for best practices to avoid losses. This is in several provinces. And then the final is the killing of the otter. At the rivers, we have just compensation of losses in one case, because generally we say that the fish in the river is a public good. It's not belonging to the fishing rights owner. And the other option is killing. A problem which is really hampering killing of otters is the reproduction biology. Otters are able to give birth all the year round. They have no seasonal breeding, and they have dependent cubs for 10 to 12 months. So basically, because you don't see the difference between male and female in the nature, killing is not really a straightforward option. Now the management in different provinces. You see Lower Upper Austria, Burgenland, Styria, Carinthia, Salzburg, and so on. Money for fences is given in 4 cases, then compensation is in ponds and rivers in one case. The financial reward, which I showed you for ponds which you cannot fence, is in Burgenland. And here you see the quotas. Austria is a country of 80,000 square kilometers, but fish ponds are just in a small area, and so on. And so basically, we kill quite a lot of otters, and this is actually quite unique because in Poland they give permits to kill otters in fish ponds, and also in Finland. But in Finland it's around 10 otters annually, and in Poland it's also around 200. But in all other countries where we have lots of fish farms, in Germany, in Czech Republic, in Hungary, wheresoever, this is not really the way they are going to. So generally the conflict reconciliation, I would say, with the fish farms in ornamental ponds, with the fencing, compensation, and so on, the conflict is plus minus successfully reconciled without killing, different with the rivers. But does the killing help? There is no consensus amongst the stakeholders in Austria, but as I showed you, it's legalized at the moment. We carried out 3 removal experiments to see if it has an effect. Alpine trout streams, highland small trout streams, and the Grayling River. The Alpine trout stream, there was a decade of absence of otters, and you see how happy the angler was with such a big fish. Afterwards, we had just small fish. We removed 6 otters in 2 years, and Actually, the otter recolonization was detrimental for a fisherman, but it caused more natural trout populations and it was not a threat for the local fish. The oligotrophic highland stream, there were actually no fish left for the anglers in spring. The removal of 11 to 13 otters did not show an increase of fish biomass, so again detrimental for anglers. And the last case, 66% drop of otter presence, again did not change an increase of grayling because of climate change effects. So the legal implementation of 188 otters killed annually, it's done by law, not by single case decision. Why? In the single case condition, NGOs have the possibility to intervene. In the law, if it's done by law, the NGOs have no possibility. That should not be the case. The Aarhus Convention provides the possibility that NGOs have the possibilities to intervene when laws come to being. This law is signed by Austria, the convention is signed by Austria, but it's not implemented. So what does the EU Commission think about it? They say first exhaust all legal options in Austria, but because of this strange loop, because the Aarhus Convention is not implemented, we are not able, NGOs are not able to intervene and to bring these cases to the court. So we are somehow stuck. Overall conclusion, the legal and institutional framework in Austria, in the European Union, prevents successful reconciliation. It does not, this word is missing. It does not, the legal and institutional framework in Austria does not prevent successful reconciliation, and this is true for other conflicts in Austria, because the Aarhus Convention, all these things are working there. It's true for the wolf, the beaver, and so on. And of course, this way, this missing legal loop is also spreading to other countries, and they try now also in Bavaria, Czech Republic, and Italy to solve the problem like that. Thank you very much.
We have time for one question.
Thank you. My name is Hadi from Indonesia. Nice presentation. I would like to one question about the incentive the compensation you're going to give for the loss. How attractive this compensation? Because if the compensation is too big, then people is really not really care to conserve the otter. So I would like to know
the amount of compensation they pay.
Yes, they get the compensation because of the loss. How attractive or how does it make an impact for them? Thank you.
Yes, it does make an impact. I mean, we have in Lower Austrians, for instance, where we pay most of the compensations, we have 20 fish farmers, and they get in total 150,000 euro. Dollar, it's the same. So that is something. It has a limit. So if there is more damage, they cut down all the people who want to get compensation equally. So, but I think in general we have to take into account many or several possibilities to alleviate the problem. And compensation is one thing. For other situations we need the fences. In another case we just pay some reward to accept the otter, so we don't calculate any kind of damage. But if you want to calculate damage, it's quite tricky, because it must be really a professional fish farm. They must have books where it's written how much did you put inside, how much do you feed, which are the climate conditions, or are you sure that there were no parasites, no diseases, and so on. So it's not so easy. And when you saw these ponds, I mean, some of the ponds are straightforward, that you say, okay, it's really a professional, like industrial enterprise. But if it's something very much like natural lake, then there can be many, many reasons, and then it's really tricky to estimate. In Germany, they do these compensation payments in advance. They say, okay, the pond is big like that, we expect that there are that many otters living on such a pond, according to the bank length and so on, and they pay in advance, and everybody knows how much they get, and that's even better, I would say. It's less bureaucracy and less quarrels and discussions about it.